Hello, hello, hello. We are live for a theater talk conversation. I just wanted to wait here for a little bit to see all the folks that are joining aboard with us. We welcome you, welcome you, welcome you to Theater Talk. I'm LaTasha Do'zia. I run and operate Selah Theater Project in Winchester, Virginia. And guess what today is? It is World Theater Day. And we thought, what a great way to celebrate World Theater Day by having a little bit of theater. Now, in the midst of deciding what to do for World Theater Day, I was kind of stumped because I really wanted to do something dramatic and fun and awareness. So it was a whole bunch of thoughts going into that. And one thing that we have not done yet is debrief about Ruth's Tea Room, which is a showcase that we did at the Bright Box Theater on February 25th, which is a piece that I wrote, and it co-starred with Joanne Thompson, who for some reason I drag her into as many theater things as possible, bless her heart. And we did a stage reading of this piece about this particular historical place in Winchester called Ruth's Tea Room. And I dramatized it with a whole bunch of stories that I've heard for the past 6 years about this wonderful location that was here in Winchester that shut down in 2005. It was run by Miss Vivian Jackson from 1983 to 2005. And it was started by her mother in 1923, Miss Ruth Jackson. It was a way to give honor to Black entrepreneurship and leadership and community as well, and to celebrate the community in general, as Ruth's Tea Room really serviced anyone and everyone. So we thought on World Theater Day, we would read snippets of Ruth's Tea Room to you in honor of all of the actors everywhere, in honor of this story, in honor of Miss Jackson, and just bring so much awareness to how theater can really build on community. So we're going to bring Joanne here in a little bit to talk about her experience with Ruth's Tea Room, and we welcome you to Theater Talk. And we're back with Miss JoJo. How are you doing?
Catching up on rest.
That's my fault. Joe just finished closing Guess Who's Coming to Dinner yesterday. And I think everyone is just happy to have a day off and to rest. But Joe is also in our next production, Last Days of Judas Iscariot, which is coming up here in April. Tickets will be on sale tomorrow for that. And before that, I drug her through to do this Ruth's Tea Room in the midst of rehearsing for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. So it has been a whirlwind of fun, JoJo.
Nothing like back to back theater.
I know, but what would we do without it, right?
Nothing I would rather do, though. It's my happy place,
so,
truly.
How did you feel after our first read through of Ruth's Tea Room?
Well, it was very weird and creepy and eerie because there were a lot of things in there that I don't really know how to explain it. It was just amazing how you tapped into things that you may not have had firsthand knowledge about. It was amazing how accurate the writing was to some of the feelings, with some of the themes and that were explored through Ruth's Tea Room. I literally, after the end, I said to you that this, because you are so unsure and nervous about people um, getting that glimpse of your writing, basically.
Right.
Um, I said to you, this is going to be a slam dunk. Like there people are going to absolutely adore this. You knocked it out of the park. It was just amazing. It blew me away. It blew me away. And I don't really know that you thoroughly believed me when I said that.
I
Um,
did.
I'm
I
pretty
did.
sure you did not. I know. Which meant that I took great pleasure in saying I told you so many, many times over the weekend over the day that we did those two performances in one day.
Right.
Um, because it was not just me. It was everyone that I spoke to, I heard about. Everything that I've heard since then has pointed to the fact that there was, so I'm not like ultra Bible thumping religious, but I do have a very firm faith and spiritual belief in the Lord. And I truly believe that He spoke through you. He did His thing. What you wrote was just, I'm sad that more people didn't get to see it. I'm glad that the people that got to see it saw it, but it so much. And we only did two shows, and we did those in one day, but um, it was definitely worthy of
Uh-oh. She froze on us. Yay, internet. Well, when she comes back, hi, Sydney. How are you? We see you. Hi, fabulous lady. How are you doing?
There we
Oh,
are.
you are. Hi, JoJo. Welcome back.
Hey, the joys of live on the internet.
So, as you were
But
saying,
yeah, I, I was
she sounds like a robot.
blown away.
JoJo, you're coming in as a robot, my friend.
Blown away.
Blown away is all I heard.
There you are. Okay.
Yay, internet.
Yay. Okay,
Well,
let's
I
move
know.
on before we again.
I know. Well, I'm so glad you agreed to do this with me because it did help to have a pro with me and a pro as far as dealing with me as well on stage. Um, it we had a huge audience base that came out to see it. The tickets were free that we offered because it was kind of a celebration of Black entrepreneurship and leadership, and also a little bit of Winchester history. And we were happy to have our partners with Old Town Winchester and also at Brightbox. However, I totally agree with you that I feel like more people should have had the opportunity to see it. But there were so many things happening that day. So people had to make choices. And then it snowed.
And then it snowed.
Then it snowed. So I thought we would read little snippets if you're up for it, so that
Definitely.
people can hear a little bit about it. That people have been asking for us to perform it in other venues and spaces. We're working those kinks out. But in celebration of World Theater Day, we wanted to celebrate with a little bit of dramatization. So I'm going to pull up my script. And should we just start from the beginning?
Sure. Let's do it.
Um, Thank you for letting me sneak in. I just wanted to see. Wow, they fully gutted this place. Okay, well, there's at least one table and chair left.
What are you looking for? Everything is already gone.
I'm sorry, I didn't know anyone else was here. I just got back in town and wanted to see Ruth's again.
Where are you coming from?
Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia.
Long way to see old Ruth's tea room.
Well, I actually came into town to lay my mother to rest.
I'm so sorry. I need to close up this place today, but take your time.
Miss V,
Yes,
I didn't recognize you.
that's because I'm old.
No, ma'am. I mean, well,
Enjoy your time.
I'm Azzy Wells.
Joan Wells's daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
My goodness. You, I didn't recognize you. I heard about your mother's passing. When is her service?
Tomorrow morning.
I have a couple of teacups left here. Would you like a cup?
Yes, please.
Are you hiding from the rest of the family?
Yeah, sort of. There's a lot of people at her house, and I needed to clear my head.
I am really sorry to hear about Joan's passing. But you know, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord.
I don't mean any disrespect, but that proverb is not as comforting as some think.
It comforted me when my mother passed. It had almost become a mantra, reminding me that this too shall pass.
What will pass?
The sadness. I had to learn to lean on what my mother left behind,
The tea room.
her legacy. And now I'm closing the doors. It's almost like saying goodbye again, but I'm not. I welcome retirement.
Aren't you worried about people forgetting this place?
Why should that bother me?
Well, it's your mother's name. You are walking away from her memory.
Honey, my mother lives in every cup of tea served, every sandwich whipped together in the middle of the night, every song that played on the jukebox.
Where is the jukebox?
Gone.
How is this so easy for you
What do you mean?
to say goodbye? Everything your mother worked for is gone.
That's not true at all. The physical things are gone, yes, but Ruth still lives on.
How did you do it?
Ah, you have to write the eulogy.
How'd you know?
The legal pad, pen, and all the goodbye questions.
Yeah. Everyone's grieving harder than I am, so I was voluntold to speak. I'm the outsider during my own grief. I can't wait to get out of here.
Why'd you come at all?
That's a silly question. It's my mama.
Well, if you're doing this for her, then do it for her, nobody else. You did run off quickly after graduation. I remember Joan walking in here asking if you came through. I told her not yet, but you were here in the back smoking with your friend Lynn.
If you knew I was here, why didn't you tell her?
Sometimes teens just need to be teens, not nagged or pushed along, just allowed some place that is their taste of freedom.
Lynn and I did not smoke here.
You're not too old to get thrown out of here for lying. You girls had a pack of cigarettes taped to the bottom of one of my tables.
You knew about that.
I wasn't born yesterday. I know all the tricks of every trickster teen that walked through these doors. You were no different.
Well, why didn't you kick us out then?
You didn't bother me or anyone else. Respectful, kind, and you always left a dollar tip. I figured it wasn't worth the fight.
Good. We'll pause there.
Oh,
I think
Miss.
it's funny because so as I've said before, like snippets of what was written in Ruth's Tea Room is a collection of stories that I've heard for the past 6 years from friends and colleagues and some, community members. And the cigarette bit is a true bit. um, the jukebox bit is true, and we have a whole section where we talk about the jukebox at Ruth's Tea Room, and it's one of the first things that a lot of people reminisced about when they were talking about Ruth's Tea Room. They would say, the jukebox, the jukebox. Oh, I had this song on the jukebox. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but on YouTube, there's a Ruth's Tea Room playlist of all the different jukebox songs that people have collected over the years that are on the jukebox. And my friend Abby loves the song Hawk. That's the song that she used to listen to in her youth, and she couldn't find it. And I found it on the YouTube playlist and I sent it to her. And she was like, yes, yes, yes. And so it was really, really cool to kind of dive into his as a transplant here. It was nice to dive into the history that a lot of people had good memories about. Joe, for you, I know you've been talking about, we've talked about together about the type of work that we accept and the type of work that we will continue to do. And for you, you said something pretty profound for yourself, is your own self of what type of work you're willing to do, which is work that tells stories,
Yeah.
that tells the truth in humanity, and to build that human connection between audiences. And I love, love, love that that's kind of a mission of yours, like just a personal mission of yours. How does Ruth's Tea Room and you participating in that reading, and even now, how is that part of your mission?
Wow. Yeah, whew. I've done so much theater. I've done the lavish musicals, I've done comedies, I've done dramas, I've done whatever. I've done dumb stuff. I've done frilly stuff. I have reached a point, like you said, I just um well, partially because of some health issues, but also really mainly because of where I am in my life. Um, I want to tell the stories. I want to tell the stories that need to be told. And when Ruth's Tea Room was presented to me, um, I thought, my gosh, like, how can we not tell this story? It is just a brilliantly written piece, interwoven with so much facts, so many facts, and so much history, and a little bit of theater levity because
Right, right.
theater. But the stories that are told in this, like, these are stories, sadly, or however you want to look at it. I'm finding that a lot of theater that I'm doing lately, that I've done a lot of pieces that have been rooted in the past recently, but I'm finding that they are just as relevant in
Mm,
2023,
mm.
which makes me sad on one level, but makes me feel fortunate to be able to be a part of telling those stories and bringing this out there, and having people have those conversations. For me, the task of playing someone who is still alive, was daunting to say the least.
She came to see it.
Having her show up at one of the houses was like, oh, okay. Had never met this wonderful woman before ever in my life until, of course, after our first show. And listening to everyone talk about Miss Vivian, talk about Ruth's Tea Room and what it meant to them, it made
She's a robot again.
in there.
There she is. So I have a
It,
question.
it,
Uh I have a
it,
question. Oh,
a lot of
it's actually pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. She'll come back to us. Um,
I'm back.
oh,
Yay.
there she is.
Okay.
There she is. There she is. Okay.
Now you're
So, one of the
okay.
questions.
There you
Oh, sorry. One of the questions that was posed to me was, how did this project started, and what made me decide to write about Ruth's Tea Room? So that's a pretty good question.
go.
Um, the project started 6 years ago. So I had met Miss Vivian when I did um, the John Brown trial at the Civil War Museum on the Walking Mall. And I was just a singer for that. And I met her, and she was telling me about Ruth's Tea Room. And so I started digging in and asking around to some folks that I knew were pretty native here, about Ruth's Tea Room, and started getting a collection of stories, not only from the Black community, but also from the LGBTQIA community, from the college students, from the community that surrounded where it was located, government officials, all of that fun stuff. So this was like a almost like a Cinderella story to me in a way, in the sense of there was this place that brought community and brought people together. Ruth's Tea Room was one of the restaurants that was listed in the Green Book, which we mentioned in the play as well, which was a book that helped African Americans travel across the nation in the 1950s, 1960s, actually earlier than that, 1940s, 50s, and 60s, safely. Places like restaurants and hotels that would service them. And Ruth's Tea Room is the only business in the entirety of the Shenandoah Valley that was listed in 1957 in the International Guild Guide, which was kind of like the Green Book, but for the LGBTQIA communities. And it just, I don't know, when we think about like back in the day, we think of the hostility, we think of the civil rights movement, we think of so many negative lit things, and Ruth's Tea Room just seems like this bit of light that was in this small community in this small town, and it sounds like a lifetime story almost. So I was intrigued to write a piece that did not sound like a lifetime movie, but brought some truth and humanity about an actual community and building community, especially between Azzy, the character Azzy, and between Miss V, who's a representation of Miss Vivian. So that's how that happened, how it got started. I was approached by the city of Winchester to do something for Black History Month. And of course, we always want to uplift voices that seem invisible, and Black women is one of those, especially Black women in the arts is another one. So, how can I highlight Black women in the arts and highlight Black women for Black History Month? And this was just a win win situation. So, I had to dig into my files and pull this out and garner the courage to finish writing it, even though some folks tell me I'm not done, apparently. Oh.
She's not. She's not. She's never done. She's never done. The draft I saw the first time was not the draft that we ended up doing on the day of the performance.
This is true.
So
Well, that's why I keep it in a live document so that we
yeah.
can constantly add or change to it. Um, I think it's interesting that the audience's response to this, majority of what I heard was, "Have you experienced the loss of a mother?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Thankfully, no, I have not experienced that." And some folks were confused. I even had people go, did we meet? Did we talk about when my mom passed? Like, did we talk about this? Because some of the things that you said are exactly what I was thinking or saying or harboring in my heart. Especially the part where as he expresses anger towards her mother for dying, and a lot of folks expressed that that's exactly how they were feeling. Joe, would you agree with me if I were to say the theater is a way to understand and gain a sense of empathy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it time and time again. It's yeah. I think back to when we did fences the first
Hmm.
time. Um, and I had a dear friend at the time who was going through a lot. And I had mentioned that. I don't know if I had mentioned it to you before or if you and I discussed it afterwards, like you noticed her
I
during the
noticed her, and you told me
yeah.
afterwards. Yes,
And then I mentioned, well, yeah, she's been going through it. And saying that to say, I kind of warned her because I was like, I'm really grateful for you coming out to support me, but let me warn you about some of the subject matter, knowing what she had been going through.
right.
And she chose to come see it anyway. And it was just, I mean, she cried, yeah, but um, it was so therapeutic for her. Um, and honestly, the same thing with Ruth's Tea Room. We both have a friend who had recently experienced the loss of her mother and
Right.
came to see it. And I warned her and I said, hey, here's some stuff. Love the support, but your
Don't do
wounds
it
are
to yourself.
your, your wounds are very raw now. So here's a heads up. Um, and she came and yeah, well, of course, you spent a great deal of time with her afterwards. I just feel, and even for me, having lost my mother, my best friend in the entire world, coming up, wow, on 8 years now. I still get, like I just could not with some of this that you wrote, particularly for you not having, not that you have not experienced loss, but there is
Right.
something very specific about the loss of a parent, the loss of a mother, um, that I cannot identify to people. It's something that you simply have to go through, even if your relationship is complicated. No matter what it is, there's
Right.
something very weird and specific about the loss of a parent. And I also believe, obviously, the loss of a child, which I pray I never have to deal with.
Right.
Um, and the fact that you were able to tap into some very specific things about that, never having experienced you need to tell that story about how you wrote that one scene when you were in yeah.
So so a lot of people like to call it a muse or a creative guide or whatever it may be. I don't know how to describe it for me. It's kind of like this weird out of body experience. But I was in the shower one day and I was really concerned about not being able to fulfill this script or not being able to be brave enough to make this happen. Um for a number of reasons. But I was in the shower one day and I heard a conversation happening in my head. So I decided to grab my phone and start a voice memo. And I started recording the conversation that was happening in my mind. And that's actually the last moment. Um, and we can read that if you want. But um, it's the very last moment. And I had no ending to this. And I got out of the shower. I finished the conversation in my head by myself. And I stopped the recording. And I was like, I need to transcribe this right away before I lose the creativity or the motivation. And so I pressed play and I started transcribing, and it sounded like two different voices on the recording, and it freaked me out because I know it was just my voice, and but it was two distinct voices. It was definitely a Miss V and an Azzy voice. I transcribed it and then I deleted the voice memo because it scared me so bad. Um, but we can read the end part. Saying goodbye is not the end. If you want to go to that moment.
All right. Let's see if we can get through it.
So this is after all has kind of come together, and Miss V is asking Azzy if she's still stuck on writing this eulogy for her mother's funeral.
So, are you still stuck?
I'm becoming a little unglued.
I know what's holding you back from writing that eulogy.
You do?
Uh huh.
Are you going to clue me in?
You are afraid to say goodbye.
I guess so. These are the last words I'm going to say to my mother. The last words with her body present. I mean, I know she's not here anymore.
To be absent from the body,
It's to be present with the Lord. Yes, I know. I don't know if I believe that though, Miss Fee.
you know better.
Do I? I ran from this place to discover who I am outside of this small town, only to return heartbroken and lost. My mother is gone. Her name will become obsolete. As her body disappears, memories of her will go with her. I'm not ready to say goodbye. I'm not ready to be next in line for succumbing to the secrets of death. In my mind, I'm still that little girl waiting for her hair to be braided or hot combed on an early Sunday morning. I'm still waiting for that moment in church service for the slip of a piece of peppermint candy, the smell of hot rolls coming from grandma's kitchen as we kids run outside, hearing them both say how we smell fresh when we came back in, knowing we all smell like ass. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know what I mean. I'm just not ready. We should still have time together. I should have come home more. We're supposed to jointly spoil grand and great grandchildren. I wanted to watch the tears fall from her eyes when my son names her first daughter after her. We've been robbed. This truth known as death has robbed me. I want my mama, Miss V.
You see death as the end.
Don't you?
I used to think like you when I lost my mother. No one tells you that you feel orphaned when your parents leave this world. no matter how old you are when they're gone. It is a sense of trauma that every human being has to face.
I feel a butt coming.
But I don't feel that way anymore. You see this building? I used to think I had to keep it alive in order to avoid that loss of my mom again. I'm older and tired. It is time to say goodbye to the physical building. It is not saying goodbye to how this place made me feel, the people, the conversations, the simple beauty of china on the table, my dog, the jukebox. None of it leaves my heart or my mind. I'm not losing my mother, rather, closing the business. I'm gaining her back with all of the stories of what this place meant to my community. My mother's name will live on even when I've passed. Yes, you are saying goodbye to the physical form of your mother, but you are saying hello to your mother in every possible way she made you feel loved. Her memory lives in you, her spirit you will see in the eyes of your children. She's not gone. She is walking right beside you.
I don't feel her. I can't smell her perfume, the warmth of her hug, and the jiggly yet strong arms that would hold me through many of life's heartbreaks. My heart is breaking, and my mom isn't here to hold me.
Hold on to me. I'll hold you. It's okay. Get those tears out.
Good, we'll pause there because she's frozen. So,
There we are.
there we are. Yeah, no, we'll pause there. Um, what at the end, at the very end, she says hello instead of goodbye, right? When she says hello, I remember Eric saying, because Eric couldn't even talk to us after we were finished, right? And the moment he was able to talk to us, he came to me and he said, "Hello." Who? That's what that's all I got from him. I didn't get any more than that. But what is this? What does that mean for you? Did that mean anything for you as an actor and then personally, instead of the traditional saying goodbye and the lights go down and that traditionalist stuff?
Mhm.
How did that make a difference, if any at all?
That meant everything. Everything. As an actor, it meant saying hello to the conversations that come afterwards.
Mm,
And there were many.
a lot.
and and I'm sure I didn't hear all of them. As personally, as someone who has walked, continues to walk this journey, I remember, I lost my father when I was very, very young.
Right.
Um, and I lost my mother at the age of 50. And I remember the very first thing that I said was that, wow, I am a 50-year-old orphan. So when I read that orphan line in your writing, I thought, yeah, and you do. Personally, you focus so much, as he does in this piece. You focus so much on what you're losing, what you could have done better, what you should have done, blah, blah, blah. Not saying that those feelings are not valid. You have to go through the steps. If there is one thing I have learned, you cannot ignore grief
Right.
because it will knock you upside your head. And I learned that the hard way. Personally, the saying hello, I firmly believe that my mother walks beside me and my child and her sisters and brother and her mother and watches over us and is rooting for us and is sad with us when things aren't great and celebrates with us when things are amazing and is just there with us. I have to believe that. So that's saying hello, that is saying hello to your loved one in a totally different way than you ever thought you could conceive of. But you have to get there. It's not something that comes immediately, and it comes at different times for different people. Obviously,
True.
grieving is very personal. Um, but yeah, that's what that. I mean, as an actor, like I said, it's like saying hello to conversations, and personally, it was saying hello to my mother and welcoming her in an entirely different way. You know, I've done so many things that I wish she could have physically been here for, but I hold on to the fact that she had the best seat in the house for all of it. Everything that's happened for the past almost 8 years, she's had the best seat in the house.
I love that. I think during the pandemic we lost human connection, and I say that, and I stand firmly on that, especially looking at our young people
Oh.
and how they are connecting and disconnecting so easily. Um, and I love theater that can reconnect people, whether it's to a thought, an ideology, a person, or even deep within themselves. I love that type of theater, and I love even with like we just closed Matilda at Daniel Morgan Middle School, and um, how many people wiped away tears as the kids sang "When I Grow Up," and I had to give this speech to my students in the dressing rooms. I said, "Listen, you have adults in the palm of your hand." And let me tell you why. And they were like, "Why? What's going on?" And I was like, "When you sing When I Grow Up, every adult in that room is thinking about when they were your age and what they dreamt about. And the next step of that thinking is, did I accomplish any of those things? Or was my dream super crazy? Or how do I become a kid and how do I have that kid like imagination again and dream again?"
Mm-hmm.
And so the power, I said, "You have such power right now." And the kids were like, "We do." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you have
Yeah.
such great power.
Yep.
You get to turn the audience any way that you want."
And
And I
then there's the added thing of loved ones sitting in the audience watching their children
hmm
sing that song and thinking, wow, when they grow up, like
right,
what will their lives be like? That, yeah.
right, right. So it's amazing. So even with things that are, people like to say, music theater is fluff and stuff. But some music theater has such great moments of reconnecting you, whether it's to your imagination or to your own spirit or your heart or whatever it may be. And then you have us at Selah that we always do stuff like this, but but it's about being able to create conversation. And I think you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that with the say hello at the end, how it invites the conversation that comes afterwards. It doesn't give us such a hard conclusion
Mm-hmm.
or an ending. Um, and sometimes that's necessary, right? In
Yeah.
some shows. Um, And sometimes just that open-ended uh, way of saying farewell to our audiences is also very important. You have a question, Joe. What was the hardest part about playing Miss V?
Playing a person that is a real life person. um,
That you
Playing
look like.
that I apparently, okay, so for those who don't know, again, just some more weird stuff. So apparently this beautiful, amazing, wonderful woman, um, Miss Vivian, who I had the honor of playing, had never met, had
Nope.
never seen a picture of, had never, didn't know a thing about her aside from what I read in this play that LaTasha wrote. That's it. That was my Miss, and from conversations that Tasha and I had.
Mhm.
That was my whole knowledge of Miss V. Not a lot. When normally when you do a play, you know, you have a character and you have characters have traits and you have these things that you try to tap into
Mhm.
to tell that story. I had none of that for this. Um, so I just trusted my gut in trying to interpret the beautiful words that LaTasha wrote the right way. Much to my surprise and amazement, after the first show we mentioned earlier, I got to meet Miss Vivian, and with every person that came to both shows that knew her, literally said, "Oh my God, when did you meet her? I never met her. I met her today." Apparently, I embodied this woman and her mannerisms and her facial expressions and the tone of my voice that I used. And apparently, I did it justice, apparently, which was wonderful for the piece, but very weird for me. Like, I don't know where that came. It came from the same place that the shower thing came from for you. That's I said this was so destined to be written and seen and experienced, and just the number of people that I heard from who said, "Oh wow, are you sure you and Miss Vivian are not related?" I literally texted my family in between shows and sent them a picture of Miss Vivian and said, "Hey, this is who this is. Is there any way we are related to this woman?"
It's
um
scary. I mean, down to the skin tone.
yeah,
Same skin tone. And she's salt and pepper now, you're salt and pepper now. Like it's eerie. It's pretty eerie.
yeah.
But she was so cute because she was talking to you up a storm. She adored you. And I came up to her and she grabbed my arm, and I was waiting for her approval or disapproval, a nerve-wracking moment. um, and she grabbed my arm and she said, um, "What's the symbolism behind that black tablecloth on that table?" And I said, "Oh, no symbolism. We That's all we had to cover up the plastic round table." Okay, okay. And I was like, "Okay, that's all we got. All right, very good. I'm good."
Yeah, that was her whole thing.
That was her whole thing.
That's it. The tablecloth.
The tablecloth. Why was it black? And why I was like, oh, but it was great. We have so many pictures of you two
Oh, that is
together.
wonderful. I will treasure that. And the stories that everyone had about Ruth's tea room. And there was this one guy who came up to me and told me how in love he was with Miss Vivian when he was younger. And his wife was there and attested to you like, yeah, it was just like this took so many people back, even though there are some matters, there was some things going on back then,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
weren't great, but I didn't get a lot of that. Like, we got a lot of, okay, yeah, that was wonderful that it was great how you touched on that, and but most of what I got, and I'm pretty sure what you got as well, was just the memories and the joy of being in that room and being with Miss Vivian and being with their friends that they would hang out with in the tea room. And there was just so much joy and so much, just wonderful reminiscing.
Yeah, it was a lot of reminiscing. It was a lot of joy. There were tears from that joy as well, of reminiscing
Yes.
as well. And so it was nice to be able to gift the community with that. And to be able to have Miss Vivian, who's 97, I believe,
Yes.
to come out and witness.
Fun fact, same age as my grandmother, who is
That's
still
true.
with us.
Yes. And it's just amazing. It's mind blowing. I did receive one comment, and I do want to touch on this because I think it's important.
Yeah.
A lot of us artists are really, really sensitive about our work, and feedback can be really, really hard. But I did receive this one comment from a lady who was waiting for me in the lobby. She had left right at curtain call, went to the lobby, had made a phone call to someone, and I am the first one out because I'm like, I need to de-people. And so I went out to the lobby and I hear her say on the phone, the playwright is here. I'll be right back. And it was in this tone of confrontation. And so I was like, I wrote something that's wrong. Yikes. But she came up to me and she said, why is that room full of white people? And I said, excuse me? And she said, why is that room full of white people? You said in this play that Ruth's Tea Room was all about community and blah blah blah, but there are barely any black people in there. I said, well, the show wasn't just for black people. It wasn't just about black people. It was about community while celebrating a black woman.
Hmm.
I don't understand. And I was like, yeah, I'm starting to get that. But she was very hostile on the fact that I did not personally go out and gather every black person in the community to come and see this show. And at first it bothered me. Second, I had to check my face because I can only imagine what my face looked like. Um, and the third part of that is, when did playwrights and artists become responsible for how or who responds to getting tickets? I mean, it was a free show. It was an offering to the community. Anybody could have come. And I thought we had a decently diverse audience. Was it what we wanted? No. Could it have been more? Of course. But it's a matter of information as well. Did everyone have access to the same information that this was even happening?
Right.
Um, and that wasn't my responsibility. I wasn't the marketer of this, but I thought it was interesting that she felt so confident to confront me, not on the work itself, but
Right.
on who was sitting in the audience. And I think one thing that Selah has done well over the past few years is to build a diverse audience base. And it's slowly but surely, but we have to understand too that it takes time to
Yes.
build trust and understanding that just because you do one show with two black women in it, is that the last time that folks are going to see those two black women? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
When
Exactly.
we have to build that trust with the community that they will see our faces again, they will hear our voices again, that we are here to tell stories for them, about them, with them, to educate and have that representation on stage. And it's not just color either, it's a matter of abilities, even language, even diversity is such a vague word. And I think we forget that, one, we shouldn't be super confident to step up to people that we don't know. Um,
Amen.
and and two, I asked her, what did she do to make sure that someone, a person of color or whatever, made sure that they had a ticket to come to that performance?
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. I really have nothing beyond that, but
Yeah.
um, I really thought that was interesting that that's what she received from this particular piece of all things. So I don't know if she was disassociating or if she felt like, because there are definitely parts in there specifically guided towards the Black experience,
Yes.
um, that maybe she couldn't relate to, or if she personally felt attacked and did not want to be in that audience or did not understand why she was in that audience. It's a whirlwind of questions that I have, but we can't control her and we can't
Yeah.
control who comes to see shows either. But we can always make sure that we do better with passing out information and
Yeah.
having dialogue and conversations like this. You know, people that may not have been able to see it are maybe on social media and maybe are like, oh, well, I didn't even know about it. um, are there any future plans for it? And that's actually the next question. Are there any plans for more performances of Ruth's Tea Room? uh, we, Joe and I are now working on show number
Three.
three,
Three. Three. Wait.
three,
Three.
three, and four is coming soon. So, show number three between the two of us. Um, there are conversations. I know the city would like, and a few other community partners who would like to see Ruth's Tea Room. It's a matter of scheduling and time. There's nothing set right now. We are both open to doing it and exploring it again. It's also an emotionally taxing piece. So the last time Joe and I did an
I was just thinking that.
was when we did Night Mother, and during Night Mother was a really hard time for me personally, and but it's what saved my life and kept me going. So I'm grateful forever for that piece. But we wanted to do that piece as two Black women as well because it talks about mental health, and we wanted to bring awareness to that for our community as well. um, and it was successful, it was great, it was wonderful, but we need a little break, we need a little break. So
It was very, very emotionally taxing. Maybe one day we'll do a comedy. I
you know,
don't think
and that'll be the time, Joe, where no one comes to see the show.
I know. You'd be like, wait, what? What's happening? No.
But yeah, so there are plans in the work, but nothing is set in stone yet. We also want to make sure that Joe has room to breathe and I have room to breathe as well, because it is an emotionally taxing show. But we are so grateful to Old Town Winchester and to Brightbox for hosting us, so that we could present this during Black History Month, and also to do something outside of our norm. Joe and I don't get to share the stage. It's usually a director actor kind of relationship. So that was nice to be able to have that. I am an actor, but I like to say I'm a director first and an actor second in this part of my career. So that was definitely different to have me on stage again. But um, I am grateful to everyone that came out to see it, to witness it, to give us feedback on it, to encourage us with it. It was a very long day. It was a 12-hour day for us. And but we got through it, and the community responded well to it. And this is just the beginning of work like this, and broadening audiences and awareness and what theater can actually look like, and also representation on stage is it matters and it's important. So, Joe, thank you. Thanks for joining me today on Theater Talk and for talking about Ruth's Tea Room and playing Miss V, who you look very much alike.
Thank you for having me and allowing me the opportunity to do all of those things.
I appreciate you. And to everyone else, we are going to see you again soon. We'll see you next week, actually. We're going to get this theater talk up and going again. We love all of you, and we hope to see you at the theater soon. Bye.